yes, they beat Jim Oberstar. But like John Dingell won comfortably. But yeah, it was a disaster. I mean, it's really the only saving grace the Democrats had that election was because in the Senate the Republicans nominated such bad candidates that they were able to hold on to their majority. And I'll give you a little personal story from 2010. So 2008 was really my first cycle where I was involved in national politics. I did some local stuff in New Orleans before that, but really 08 was my first cycle that I started following national politics. Okay, and I was really mad because I was a big Obama social supporter, and I couldn't vote because I was only 16.
Oh,
Flash forward to 2010, and at the time I was living in North Carolina. When I was about 10, we moved from New Orleans to Charlotte, North Carolina, and I was back in Louisiana at college. I didn't request an absentee ballot in time, and I figured, it's just going to be such a Republican year. I lived in South Charlotte, which at the time was a pretty Republican region. It's not now, but I'm like, it's going to be it's going to be a big year for the Republicans. I'm not going to even bother, even though I'm 18. And that was the year that the Republicans flipped the legislature there. And in a
yep.
lot of ways, North Carolina still hasn't gotten past that election, and I feel guilty. And because at least I could have had a say in that election, and I didn't. So that's what I tell people sometimes when they ask me, what's the importance of voting, and like I tell people as well, that's from the Democratic perspective, but I could have easily been a Republican in a blue state, same thing. So it's I just feel guilty about that election because ever since you can kind of see like by like this time, really some other states that were hit badly in that election were like Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania. Wisconsin, they at least have the Supreme Court now, so they're starting to undo some of that. But North Carolina, man, it's a state that I just
No, but the Wisconsin state legislatures are still fully Republican because of their gerrymandered state legislative, or I mean state
Yes,
legislation there.
yes, yes. Although they have fair maps now, which will be in place for this election, so we'll see how those go. But yeah, I mean North Carolina and Wisconsin, just the Republicans in those states are the
Yeah.
absolute most cutthroat types.
Yeah, it's a disappointment for the North Carolina state legislature because Democrats had, last cycle had an advantage over the delegation and along with their PVIs. But then,
Yeah.
of course, the state legislature of North Carolina fucked it up. Even though Governor Cooper can override it, they still went ahead with it because, of course,
Well,
when the governor vetoes or disapproves of the bill, they can override the governor's, which is
Well, in
sad, of
North
course, which is
Carolina,
sad.
it's different because the governor doesn't have a say in redistricting. That's why, because it's one of the other quirks about North Carolina as well is like it has historically a very weak governorship. It wasn't until the early 90s, I believe, that the legislature gave the North Carolina governor veto power. But they did not give the governor veto power over redistricting. And that hurt them in 2010 as well, because after the Republicans took the legislature, Bev Perdue, the Democratic governor, could not do anything when they drew their new map. So it was oh yeah, North Carolina. It's the day that the day that the legislature flips to the Democrats for me is going to be a day that is a long time coming because it was just like I think in North Carolina going into the 2010 elections like they had 60-40 Democratic majorities in the legislature basically flipped the other way to Republicans. I think Minnesota was like that as well, because that was, even though the Democrats won the governor's race that year, the state legislature was pretty Republican as well. So it was really, and I think what's kind of, what I do kind of miss from like 2010 is, like in North Carolina, for example, even though Richard Burr won the Senate race by 11 points, the House Democrats did well that cycle. They kept the majority of the
Yeah,
delegation, but because the legislature flipped, that kind of ended up dooming them. So that's why I was like, okay, when the North Carolina Republicans were redrawing the map this time, I'm like, they're going to be brutal, because that's how they are. They are they are the worst at at just yeah, in terms of being cutthroat and aggressive. Uh, but I mean, I do see, I was told, so like you may have heard, there's a new state party chair in North Carolina. Her name's Anderson Clayton. I've been told anecdotally that she's doing a really good job of running candidates, fundraising, trying to appeal to the rural areas. So, I think given the national state of things, Trump still carries North Carolina, uh,
yeah, I would agree.
but maybe Biden can take it if it gets, I don't know if he gets close enough.
I mean, I wanna joke that I've heard that story before of the North Carolina flipping blue on a statewide and presidential level,
Uh,
but it still hasn't happened, of course, given the 2020 Senate election between State Senator Cal Cunningham and Senator Tom
Oh, hello.
Tillis, and then
Am I?
hey, well,
Hello.
guess what? So, yeah, that was, I heard that. So, okay, I'll tell you a little story on North Carolina as well. Um, so after that election in 2020, that I did a piece saying Cal Cunningham's scandal would not have mattered. He would have lost anyway. It wasn't helpful, but he was still lost anyway. And the
yeah.
next day after my piece runs, I get a call from him. And
Oh,
we
really?
had been, yeah, so like we had been friends on Facebook for a while, but that really doesn't mean too much. So he
Ah,
actually
yeah.
called me, and we actually did have a good conversation. And one of the things he told me is, what he kind of blamed it on is, so in North Carolina, there's different methods of voting, right? There's early, absentee, and then there's in person. Trump just had such, he just brought people, so many people out on election day, that was enough to carry the rest of the Republicans over. I heard also through someone else that Tom Tillis was just as surprised as anyone that he won re-election that year. So, uh, you know, basically because of the people Trump brought out on election day. And so yeah, he's a good guy, Cal Cunningham. I mean, I feel like his scandal. There have been politicians who have done a lot worse, like Trump, who haven't been punished like that. But it is what it is. So it's going to be interesting to see if because I know Cooper's at least like 66 now, maybe even older. So I'm sure they want him to run for Senate in 2026. We'll see. I don't know at this point that Tom Tillis is going to even be able to get through a primary.
Well, given his health condition, I think, well, if his health condition gets better, I think he would go for a re-election. I only think, but I can be wrong, of course, but we'll see in 2026.
Tom
If
Tillis,
yeah.
what's his health issue?
Oh, you don't. Oh, yeah. Apparently, he has cancer.
Tom Tillis?
Yeah. Yeah.
Really?
He has. As if I remember it correctly, yeah, I think he has cancer. Senator Tom Tillis has a cancer.
Oh, weird. Oh, okay. Yeah. Well. I mean, I wish him well.
Yeah, he has a prostate. Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
Okay.
if I were him, I'd retire already. But that's
Yeah.
just
Well,
me.
that's a theme this year of just
That's that's kind of brutal, but
politicians.
yeah,
What? What, Circuit? What did you say?
that's kind of brutal to say. Like, oh,
Uh,
you have cancer? Go and retire. I mean, you've made well with your life, so might as well
yeah,
spend your remaining days retired like that. Anyway,
yeah.
so
Rather than dying in office, look what
what?
happened to former Senator
Yeah.
McCain, former Senator
I mean, that's
Feinstein.
more. You
Yeah,
know, in fairness, that tends to be a more democratic thing. It's them who kind of stick around and they like think when they're elected to office they have to hold it until they die, like Feinstein and
oh yeah,
All right, so yeah, I've been so yeah. All right, here's all right. Now the discussion has been derailed because of me asking first about the 1994 and 2010. So anyway, I just want us to talk about first what are our takes on the debate last Thursday night, which is Friday morning here. I want to go first with you, Sir Miles, about what do you think about the debate? I would guess that you share the sentiments of other people on the ET that the president fumbled, but I'll let you speak on about it.
Yeah, I mean, it was, really wonder if the Biden campaign would have proposed it in the first place if they knew this was going to be the result, or right? So Thursday night, I sat down to watch it with my girlfriend from the Philippines, who's very apolitical. She doesn't really follow politics here, and we sit down to watch it, and we get maybe 10, 15 minutes in, maybe even less than that, and she's like, "Okay, can we please watch something else? This is too stressful." so 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 I ended up just watching it outside, walking around, pacing around outside my house, just because I was so anxious. But yeah, I mean, it was a rough debate for Biden. Nowhere to sugarcoat that. I mean, I think I think they found they have an effective one, and Trump has a more of an alley cat. I think that's something that they're going to use again. I think one of the things that may have helped Biden is that Trump. It seems like from most of the coverage from sources like NPR that I've listened to, basically things that the average voter would consume and listen to, the takeaway was, Biden was sort of stumbly, but Trump lied every other word, right? So I think a lot of people could come out of this saying, okay, well, it's a wash, right? Which, is not that great for Biden because he really needed some type of a game changer. Uh, I think what this kind of does for him too, which is not great, is it kind of reopens talk of the Democrats getting a new nominee,
Yeah,
which
yeah, yeah,
you know I don't know if that actually happens, but I think the fact that they're going back to it doesn't elude confidence. So, and it's funny because I don't know if y'all saw, but we were talking about North Carolina a little earlier. The day after Biden did this rally in North Carolina, and he was
yep,
fine. So it's like
yeah,
we know he's capable of it. Well, okay, this is something that it seems common sense, but my girlfriend pointed out as well. So like it started at what, like 9:30, 10 o'clock, or I think it started at 9 p.m. here, and we start watching it, and she sees these guys, and she's like, "Well, isn't it past their bedtimes?" So maybe that had something to do with it.
Oh, okay. Sir Kurt, what are your thoughts about the last night? Or I mean, last Thursday
okay.
about the
First of
debate?
all, I was divided into two things. First of all, in the surface level, optically, Trump won the debate, as I have pointed out, due to the rigor and the energy that he was able to project in the stage against a more slow moving and somewhat exhausted Joe Biden. So optically, Trump had the A game. But if you look at the substance of what Trump is saying, you see that, or you hear the typical lies. Like, I mean, if I just close my eyes, I can actually summarize every lie he was able to spout out in the debates. But like what I've said, Americans really don't care about the substance
Policy.
anymore. It's more of the optics. And when you connect with what they're emotionally feeling, then you earn their trust already. Like, this is why I guess
It's a simple litmus test.
Trump was able to capture some independent voters on his side right now because the economy isn't improving, and all of the foreign policy blows of the current administration was taken into um, account, which is of course a fair um, criticism if we look at it in an objective way. So for the Democrats to rebound, I guess they really need to boost their ground game, because I think in terms of the ground game, the polling would be still close. I mean, CNN in itself isn't as widespread as it once was. So whoever watched the debate would probably say, "Meh, I don't care. Meh, it's just two old men fighting over who to who to go to the CR first." I don't know. I mean, that's the optics I'm just trying to make. But
Yeah.
uh, the ground game has to work on the side of the Democrats if they're in it to win this thing. Because in terms of the optics of Joe Biden, I can't say anything positive because the hoarse voice was not as strong bill or strong willed as it as the team may want uh, Biden to project that. So it's just sad that the reaction of Joe Biden over Trump's lies was very, you know, it was kind of awkward because you gotta not only react to what he's saying as a lie, but you gotta say it in a very strong zinger. Like he could have said, this is what he does all the time, and America can't you just see this person running in front of you is already convicted, like that. He didn't do that. He was reacting to all of the lies, and that's going to affect the voter. Like, yeah, we know that he's lying, but what are you going to do about it? You should be representing us, the people you're serving. So I just think that the campaign team needs to uh, reassess everything, because if he does this exact same thing in the second debate, if ever there are three debates, it's going to go
Oh yeah, there
downhill
will
from
be.
there. I mean, you have only five swing states that are movable by this point, and you can't afford to just mess it up. And
Yep.
just by becoming a, you know, I can't say a bad word here since it's recorded. You just can't look bad in front of TV. I mean, Joe Biden used to overcome all of those things, right? When he was stammering before he was a stammer, and he worked his way to correct his diction. He really hired a lot of consultants to rearrange or to mitigate all of the gaps, right? And he was able to do well. I mean, I remembered, I don't know if Miles remembered this one. In 2008, when Biden ran for the nomination in '08, remember? He was often attacking now Trump supporter Rudy Giuliani because he said in a memorable quote that all Giuliani was saying is a noun and a verb in 9/11, and it really struck chords with the public. And I guess that's one of the reasons why he was eventually picked as the vice president of then Senator Obama. And it was a wonderful thing because you got a guy that worked his way to mitigate all of the gaps he could say, and now he's returning to that. It's like a probably it's because of aging, the relapse of that. and you gotta they gotta reinvent this guy if possible. I mean, he's now. I don't think he can ever match his vocal prowess 10 years ago because
Yeah,
that's he's already how old is he? 80 plus.
81.
Yeah, he should reinvent himself. He should reinvent himself as the kind grandfather that America should have or deserve if you want to be very positive about it. But Trump, on the other hand, yeah, you it's like you're up with a senile grandpa who's kind and able, but physically isn't able to, you know, do the job, and you have an active old person that's going to, uh, lie and lie and lie to you, even if the obvious is already going the opposite direction. So, I mean, that's just sad because, like what I've said, Americans don't care about optics anymore. I mean, if we look at the people that's loyal to him, the Republican base, it's just going to get redder and redder at this point. Because I mean, um, they would really want somebody to reignite the economy, and they think Trump's the answer. So that's my initial take in all of this. You know, probably I'm not into the policy specifics yet because if they don't even they didn't even talk about policy that much. It's like he did this, you did this. It's like it's a back and forth.
Yeah,
Who
it's
did
the
what?
conventional debate.
Yeah, I mean, their 2020 debates were better in a way because I don't know, maybe because people were um, expecting more from the government at that cycle due to COVID. But now it's like
It's a
two
different
old
ballgame.
it's two old men arguing who did the worst kind of lawn mowing in their backyard. So um, yeah, I have to inject humor because I just feel bad for Joe Biden. I mean, he's the
Yeah,
president of the
same.
United States, and I mean, reacting to all the lies, he looked very vulnerable, to be honest. Though they got to reinvent Joe Biden, not the wise, not the wise, witty guy anymore because he's older and he has to project himself in a different way. I think that has to be one of the options for the team that's heading his campaign. Yeah, that would be all.
Sir Miles, what about you? Do you have any more thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of it was Trump being Trump. He treated the answering the questions as optional, right, in terms of sticking with topics. He was kind of disciplined for Trump standards because he would almost take everything back to either the immigration border or he liked to bring up Afghanistan. And to me, Afghanistan was really the point where that's when Biden's approval rating started to dip into the negative direction. That's when a lot of people started to maybe trust him less. So uh, 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 bringing that up a lot, excuse me, was probably good for Trump. We'll, it's, I think Kirk hit on a lot of it. I don't have really too much to add there.
Oh, but here's a question about the presidential debates. Is it a conventional thing for re-electionist presidents to, fumble, stumble, and gaff on their first debate
Yes.
with the general
Oh,
election
yes,
court?
because I remember in 2012, like it seemed like Mitt Romney was going to be the next president
Yeah,
after. And, I think part of that is, with the incumbent presidents, maybe they're just not used to being challenged as much, right? So it kind of takes them off guard, and they're maybe less prepared. So, you know, you could say, okay, well, that was a bad showing by Obama in 2012, but this was even worse by Joe Biden, which that's probably true. But I would just emphasize as well in the limited polling we've had in the 24 to 48 hours since the debate. Not a lot of people seem to have moved, right? We've had a few public polls out saying it's still very close. So I would caution, those of us who are super plugged into this, we may be a little more reactive than the kind of average voter. One of the things I probably should have said as well is, they kind of blamed his speech on a cold, right? And if I were them, if I were the Biden campaign, I would have really considered leaking that or advertising it ahead of time. So that, because I think of the Fetterman Oz debate a few years ago. Granted, Senate races aren't as high profile as presidential races, okay, but
Yep.
I think a lot of people, or at least a lot of the average voters, went into that debate thinking, okay, Fetterman is recovering from a stroke, so he's not going to be the most articulate guy, right? It was kind of baked into their expectations. So with Biden, like his voice, it kind of caught people off guard, maybe, right? So I don't know, maybe a tactical error, but but yeah, not back to the main point, not generally uncommon for incumbents to have bad first debates.
I'd just like to add 2012 was the first debate was in Denver, and I remember the MSNBC people trying to defend Obama for somewhat stumbling over Romney in most of the questions. I mean, SNL even made a skit about that, if you recall. I mean, I was laughing about what they did there. Like, yeah, I can't really detail every part of the humor, but yeah, I remember the first debate there. And then Romney was the one making gaffes in the second and third debates. And remember the binders full of women thing? I mean, that really the his reputation. And this the other one was the number of the military size. The number the size of the military was he was challenged by then President Obama that we had more bayonets.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's a deep cut there.
Yeah, that was the second. I mean, that was the last debate, and the binders full of women was the second debate, right? So, um, incumbents do face more challenges because they're they're the ones overseeing everything. So probably in every administration, there's this way of trying to do damage control. Like in 2004, the Iraq War was in its height, so the Bush campaign would often lean back to security and protecting our interests abroad. And Kerry can't beat that because he also wants to propose the
So
same thing, right? So in 2012, Romney Romney was attacking the economy and the
yeah,
unemployment rate, although he himself somewhat has the same agenda, and and he can't even separate himself from that kind of welfare or giving welfare because Obama was the one who specialized in that in his first term. So, I mean, incumbents do face a lot of, um, you know, counterattack. I mean, direct attacks. But in the case of President Biden, I mean, he, he, I think, has to prove that even if I may not be as agile as you think I am, I have the better policies. I have the more sound judgment when it comes to overseeing a lot of these issues. Because as president, you're dealing with domestic issues and international issues all at
yep.
once. I mean, that's the uniqueness of the American presidency, something that the Philippine president can actually ignore, right? I mean, I'm just trying to compare. Like here, I mean, the younger Marcos can't just, he can ignore what's happening in Palestine. He can ignore NATO. He can ignore all these. But the president of the United States has to do something
Cannot,
given
cannot.
given the cloud of America when it comes to geopolitical things. So, you know, I guess they need to really find other ways to pin down the Republicans. I mean, just look at how the voting for the House Speaker just got messed up last year. I mean, that's as crazy as you know, that's
Yeah,
crazy
as it
AF.
as it
And
gets.
and Biden should take advantage of that, and they should because they need to play it dirty, given that Trump is all in now with the
Yep,
attacks. Like he's attacking he's attacking Biden. That Biden isn't respected by the military anymore. He's not respected by rival countries. I mean, he's doing. If we look at the the train of thought of Donald Trump, right? He's he's doing the same script what he had done with Hillary Clinton in 2016. The only difference is now he's returning to that because he's not the incumbent anymore. When he was the incumbent, he had a lot of weaknesses against him that
yep.
you know he failed to defend it because he was relying on his base entirely. But Donald Trump is at his best when he is the challenger. He's good at peeling bananas. He's not when he's the incumbent. He's not that good. If you care to understand, he's not that good because you know he was defending the Proud Boys. Remember, stand by and stand down. He
Yep.
was somewhat taking credit for the somewhat reduction on COVID cases, which doesn't. We don't need to blame it on him or credit him for that because it trajectorily happened because of the vaccines. I mean, he's not that good in 2020, but he's good now because he's challenging Biden to take the presidency again, right? And if we look at historically, Donald Trump would be the first president to, if he ever wins in November, he'd be the first president since Grover Cleveland to be a non-consecutive president, right? And Grover
Which I
Cleveland
hope not would
uh,
happen.
radically shifted his policies. I mean, remember, this is very very old American history. In 1884, he wanted to keep the tariffs, right? When he first ran, and then he lost to Benjamin Harrison by God knows how much, because that's the tightest election in the 19th century. And then in 1892, he shifted. He said, no, we should cut the tariffs because it's not good for the country. So, Donald Trump, in all of
But
his,
he's doubling down in tariffs. Former President Trump. He's doubling down again.
yeah, yeah, no, I'm not correlating the policies and tariffs. I'm just saying that Trump has to change one of his policies if he has to.
Yeah.
Grover Cleveland, the last guy to win and then lose and then win again, did that, right? And it's because it's politically convenient on his end. Now, I think the immigration thing that they're trying to fire and fan the flames on should not be his bread and butter thing because it was already his bread and butter thing since 2015, right? So yeah, it has to change at some point because people will just see everything and feel good about it because they're enraged. And as a populist, right, Donald Trump can really tap the enragement of people. But then again, once the campaign progresses, they can't hear the same thing over and over. It's going to really be uh, a dying goose, if we have to be honest with each other, when he
Yeah.
doubles down on that. Because, there are a lot of other issues that he can use to his advantage, much like the Democrats do. If they just um, pour into the decency factor and pour into the normalcy factor, it's not also going to work for them, unlike in 2020, because times have changed. And and the economy is the main reason of concern for a lot of I mean Americans. I'm so sorry. Uh, I'm so
Oh
sorry
yeah,
again.
including Filipinos in the US, of
Yeah,
course. So
a lot of Americans. Yeah, it's not normalcy anymore. But the reason why I kind of stumbled on that because the Philippines also faces the same dilemma, right? I mean, we can talk about that some other time, but yeah, I mean, that is what democratic backsliding can do if we are to be. You look into what makes people uh, find the politician, and that's when they're hungry and they don't have a job, and that's just a brutal honesty in my end.
all right.
Well, I see,
So
like in,
let's
well, like I see it in like, this is kind of a funny aside, but in Alvin's comment, I see, he talks about FDR and Reagan also
oh yeah.
encountered age
Right.
problems, and like what it reminds me of, not directly related to this, but maybe it spoke to something he had to overcome. But Reagan, of course, was 69 when he first won the office of president, and we have a poster back in my office because we have a lot of posters there and memorabilia and stuff. But anyway, we had this one poster from 1980, I guess it was. It's a picture of Reagan's face kind of photoshopped into a McDonald's uniform. He's in front of McDonald's, and the kind of subtitle is "Give Ronnie a job that he can handle." And so, so I think that kind of speaks to something. He kind of had to overcome that as well.
Yeah.
And from what I can tell, he had a rough first debate in 1984 against Walter Mondale. So again, that trend.
And in that election, he won everything except Minnesota, and that's
Yeah, yeah,
still a
right.
record we can't. That's one of the greatest
Well,
records
except
in
except Minnesota and DC.
yeah, that's one of the greatest
You
records in American presidential history. It's like Wilt's 100-point game. It's like the Celtics winning 11 championships in 10 years. I mean, it's just something we can't. I mean, I don't know if somebody can do that in a generation. I mean, that's what's
Oh no, it's
mm,
we're not going to have a landslide.
we're not. No way.
I'd be surprised if we have a landslide election
Oh,
anytime soon.
I think it's going. I think what either party, in my view, can have a presidential election landslide if one of the party's presidential nominee is so whack, is so politically whack that people, both sides of the aisle, hates him or her, regardless of his or her political party affiliation as presidential candidate. I think that
So
can
Yeah,
work.
I think Reagan was so positive in his messaging that even if you're a Democrat, you would still vote for him because he had that charisma. We
yeah,
forget
yeah.
if we forget about that when Ronald Reagan ran in 1980, he had charisma and he knew how to play into your emotion. Like he really did that, and that's one of the reasons why he did win huge margins in '80 because Carter only won 6 states in 1980, and then in 1984 he did even better. He won 49 states except Minnesota and the District of Columbia. So I mean, FDR as well was also, if we look at generation even before that in the New Deal era, FDR also was charismatic. He knew how to talk to people, and he left in 1936. His best victory was he went all in. He won out of 49 states. He won 47, except for Vermont and Maine, which ironically votes Democratic now.
Well, if
I'm so sorry.
oh no. But like, if y'all are looking for a good book, I've actually been listening to this on audiobook. It's one of my favorite books. It's called Our Country by Michael Barone. He's the author of the Almanac of American Politics, but it basically goes from roughly 1930 up to the late 80s. So basically from Roosevelt to Reagan. And it's a good kind of look at not just election results, but how they play into society and bigger trends. And one of the things he talks about with Con and Roosevelt was like he knew how to talk to people, even though he came from this very wealthy background. Like when he was trying to explain the lend-lease policy to a skeptical Congress, he was like, okay, well, if your neighbor's house is on fire, you don't ask questions before lending them your fire hose. You just do it, right? And then like he was, and then he was trying to explain to the Republicans, like he was trying to explain, like in the late 30s, like like when the Great Depression was in the rear view window, like he was because the Republicans were complaining about some things here and there about the economy, and he's like, okay, look, imagine you rescue a guy, so like imagine there's a guy who has a nice hat, and he's at the pier one day and he falls into the river. You go and rescue him, but you kind of lose his nice hat because you just want to save him. What you Republicans are doing, you are being like years later, you're like that guy that's kind of complaining that I lost your hat, but I still saved you, right? So he made those good kind of analogies like that. But anyway. And it's kind of with Reagan as well. One other thought I had is there was some thinking that really Reagan, even in 1984, the Democrats gained seats in the Senate that year, and they kept the House. So I do think there was something to it being sort of they liked Reagan more than they liked the Republican Party as a whole. And what I'm seeing this year is like we'll see how it ultimately ends up, but I wonder if it doesn't this year. It doesn't seem like it's a problem with the Democratic brand, because if you look at how Democrats are doing in the key Senate contests, they're doing okay. The House generic ballot is close. It just seems like it's a Biden problem. So we'll see if he can fix that. But kind of an interesting parallel to today.
Okay, so alright. So let's go on to the critical house races that was in the list of the Cook political report. Like I'm gonna share the screen
Oh,
first.
do you mean Sabato's crystal ball, not the Cook political report? No.
Sorry. I. My bad, my bad. Wait,
Okay,
I'll
I'm
try
We
to
kidding.
gotta,
find it.
we gotta promote our team.
Yeah. Wait. I'll go there. Alright, yeah. On your Center for Politics, yeah. I want to go to
It,
the house
yeah,
rating.
like if you go to House, it should be all there.
Yep. Oh, all right. So here it is. Oh, kind of almost the same as the Cook, but kind of different. So
So
yeah.
here,
So here
so
it is.
these are the districts that are in contention. Am I correct?
Yeah,
Yeah,
in contention. I'm sorry. I just wanna have us all see this. All right. So let's go first to the Republicans. So Congressman Cisco Manny is in Tossup, Swikart, Duarte. Alright, so Sir Miles, can we have your commentary about why did you label these 9 Republican members of the House as toss-up races?
because a lot of I think most, if not all, of these districts are bottom one seats. I think in some
Right.
cases, like Mike Garcia, a lot of those California seats are pretty heavily. They went to bottom by as much as 10, 13 points. Well, that's a lot to overcome. The Siscomani seat, we actually just shifted that to talk from Lean's Republican to toss up a few months ago when Arizona was having that, those developments with its abortion law. Schweikert is another one. I think Schweikert has a bit. Both of those Arizona seats are very light blue seats. Schweikert, I think, had some ethical issues. So, There's that one. Ira. So and then there's Bacon. He is. That's a seat that Bacon can never kind of have a comfortable re-election result. His results are always close. He'll almost always win by 1 or 2 points, maybe a little more. And then New York is really going to be one of those areas where the Democrats are going to try to make gains this cycle. Lawler, that primary was this week in New York 17. One of the
Yep.
things that caught
Yep.
my attention was Mondaire Jones, who he does not have the best will from state Democrats right now, or at least the grassroots. He didn't get the Working Families Party endorsement. That's probably something at the margins that may be able to help Lawler. But still, it's a Biden plus 10 seats, so no Republican can really be safe there. Molinaro has a district that tracks very, very closely with whatever the national popular vote is, kind of up in the Hudson Valley in New York, and Chavez Duremer in New York, not New York, in Oregon. I'm sorry.
Oregon. Yeah.
That's another Biden plus 9 seat. She had arguably a
Yep.
bad opponent in 2022. She has a new opponent this time, as we know. So
Yep.
we'll see if that makes it.
The one who defeated her in the state house
Biden,
election,
yeah, yep,
which is ironic.
yeah,
All right, so I'm gonna ask another question about this. Like, if you're part of the DCCC's polling staffers, which among of these seats, since Democrats need has 213 seats obviously in the House, and then you're gonna just pick five, enough to win the majority, or maybe probably pick more. Like, which of these districts would you recommend for the DCCC to campaign hard on?
yeah.
If
I
you're
would
a Dem-
say, I would
yeah,
say probably Bacon in Nebraska too, because if you look at where Biden's path is to 270 votes, or 270 electoral votes, he's going to have to win the 3 blue wall states plus Nebraska too. So, it would be dumb not to invest in that one. I would say, other than that, those California ones, just because they're the most democratic on paper. There was California was another state kind of like New York in that the Democrats really underperformed there last time. So this time, just the environment could be a little better. So yeah.
all right. So in California and New York, those house uh, seats that you're recommending for the DCCC. Oh, and another thing on this list, I was shocked that Representative Andy Ogles of Tennessee is in this likely Republican list. Like, I would have thought he would be in the solid and safe Republican list of your firm.
Yeah, well, his district is like Trump plus 11 or so. That's an area of Tennessee, kind of, a lot of it is south of Nashville. It's sort of like it's more of a suburban type seat than you may think. Ogles himself, he's been, he's, to say the least, has made a little bit of controversy about his record and some of his past dealings, shall we say. So, I think with a better incumbent, that, it should be a safe seat, but we're just putting it kind of on the edge of the board just to kind of pay attention to.
Right, right. Circuit, do you have a question, or are you part of the panel? Red, do you have any question?
Yeah, it's just that if, for example, the toss up are nine, right? Does the Democratic Party invest heavily on those toss ups, or because basically, I what I know from the campaigns, you funnel in a lot of money. But how about if, for example, presidential or senatorial? That's I'm always curious about. Where did they get the money?
Like, as in, where does they, where do they raise money for these races?
Yes.
Uh, I mean, I get text messages all the time from these, like, in the House. It's called the House Majority PAC, is like one of the main super PACs for Democrats. There's DCC as well. I'm always bummed because we try to get fundraising messages from the Democrats and the Republicans just to see what both people are kind of running on. But I can guarantee none of those toss-up rate. I really doubt that either side is going to be aching for money in you know any of these toss-up seats. Really, because I think we have 9 toss-up seats here in the Republican side. We have about that on the Democratic side. Just so few seats are truly competitive. So it really allows. Yeah, see, we have 9 toss-ups on the Democratic side as well. So there's such a narrow playing field that none of these. They're not going to be aching for money on either side. I can promise you that. There are all kinds of kind of corporate donors as well. So it's just the price tag of some of these elections is crazy.
Um, I have a question. Which of these toss-up races is the most vulnerable at this point?
Well, on paper, I had to toe the company line and say, they're all, they all could go either way. I believe, maybe one other way of answering that. I think Garcia, I believe, has the most Democratic seat at the presidential level. Biden won his seat by 13. So, like, if you want to use that metric, I think it's him.
Oh, okay. All right. So, I got another question here. Like, well, let's just go to the Democratic side. It's hard to. I'm kind of sad to see the other list. So, anyway, here it is on the toss up. Like, so you put Representative Porter's seat in a toss up because of course it's open. Same with the Representative Slotkin and Representative Keldy. Like, who do you think among these 9 House seats of the Democrats is the most vulnerable? In your,
You
of
know,
course, personal opinion.
I'm gonna say. He fits his district well. He has a great profile, but Don Davis, he was kind of hurt at the margins by redistricting, and that kind of northeastern part of North Carolina is not trending in Democrats' favor. Basically, if you look at his new seat, it was Biden +2 in 2020. I wouldn't be surprised if Trump flips that seat. So, and he has a better opponent than he does last time. So that kind of would make me think Davis as well. I mean, Golden, other than Mary Peltola, has the reddest seat held by any Democrat. And I think we were talking about this earlier, me and EJ, but I really think that, of course, these are all toss-ups for the purposes of that. That said, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Glusenkamp Perez wins while Jared Golden loses, because to me, Washington's third is, a very narrowly Republican district that the Democrats, at least in statewide elections, can usually at least come close in. She's going to likely be against a very bad opponent this time in Joe Kent. Again, in Joe Kent, Golden has a stronger opponent, I think, Austin Therio. He's been kind of heralded by national Republicans. Maine's second is really kind of drifting more Republican compared to Maine's first district. So, which is not to say I think he's going to lose, but he might not win by 6 points like he has in previous campaigns. But it's what's going to be what's going to be interesting as well is something one of the seats that is not in this toss up category that I think some other people have it as a toss up is Mary Peltola in Alaska. But to us, her main challenger is the lieutenant governor, who has not raised a ton of money. I think Peltola still has enough of her own brand that I would still pick her as a bit of a favorite. So that's kind of to say as well. These are our toss-ups now. Those lists could maybe grow at some point.
Oh, okay, thanks. And last question about these is because I saw the Louisiana 6 House District. Well, the incumbent there is now retiring. So I was going to ask why didn't you guys list it up Democratic on the Democratic side as a toss-up race
So
in the Louisiana 6?
is that the race we have down a safe Democratic flip at a little lower on the page?
No, it's not listed it's not listed here. But
No,
according to the
but
wiki.
but like go down a little further.
Oh yeah, here it
Yeah.
is. Oh,
So
yeah,
yeah.
okay.
So that district we moved basically from straight, safe Republican to safe Democratic. So Louisiana, like Alabama, you can see, see that likely Democratic seat AL2. So both Louisiana and Alabama added black majority seats this cycle. And the one in Louisiana is a little firmer. It's like Biden plus 20. The one in Alabama is closer to Biden plus 12 or 13. So a little less safe. But, in Louisiana, we've had an interesting situation because basically, we had to draw this new black majority seat, and it was Representative Garrett Graves who I think he's a smart guy. He's I'm a Democrat. He's a relatively good Republican, I would say. In fact, I was funny for me, like back in 2014 after the elections, I was actually living in the DC area, and I went to Garrett Graves' office his first day as a congressman. So it's kind of interesting for me now. He's kind of being drawn out, but basically Graves was kind of on the outs with Governor Landry and Representative Scalise as well. So he was the one who kind of got screwed in redistricting. So that's why it was him.
Oh, okay. So if the Democrats would ever get a seat, this district in Louisiana would be the most what do you call this? The easiest for them to flip.
Yeah,
Am I
that's
like?
I would say basically that's the lowest hanging fruit is how I would kind of phrase that, and because that the likely Democratic nominee is a state senator named Cleo Fields, who he's an interesting character. He actually was in Congress in the early '90s, but the
Yep.
Louisiana map guy got struck down, and his district was dismantled. So he's back in a new one. So, but yeah, that's the safest seat. I mean, really, you could probably say that. That really those two Louisiana and Alabama seats, they're probably going to cancel out some of the Republican gains in North Carolina.
Okay. And others here? Do you have any more thoughts or questions? Oh, nothing. Red, how about you? Or not so much?
Uh, the margins, I'm just curious. Has 538, right?
What's
Uh,
that?
the margins. What is the House 430? It's 435, right? But who wins and by how much? By how much? For example, is it 200?
Yeah, so overall, it's been very interesting because in 2020, the Democrats got a 222 to 213 majority. We thought that they would have gotten more, but they didn't. In 2022, the Republicans, even though it was supposed to be a more favorable year for them, they like won the majority, but they basically flipped it. They got a 222 to 213 seat majority. So the House really has been, I think, the harder the chambers to handicap because it's just been closer than a lot of us analysts would have thought over the last few cycles. And that's kind of my prior now. I mean, I really track the House. I think maybe a good proxy for the House is who wins the presidential race. I think that the Senate is probably at this point, I would rather be the Republicans in the Senate, but the House is probably more of a true toss up like the presidential race.
So do you think that the Senate Republicans can finally flip Senators Brown and Tester's seat come November?
Yeah, those are two seats. We have them both as toss ups. We've had, actually, it was funny. We had this one Montana poll about a week or so ago. I forget who it was from, Trump was up 20. All of the other Republicans were up about that, but John Tester went and he were tied at 46. So, I think it's doable for both of those cases. Actually, this might be one my galaxy brain takes here, but in 2016 and 2020 as well, Biden and Hillary were thought of as kind of favorites in the presidential race, right? So I really think you have this subset of voters who likes this idea of balance, right? Okay, I'm going to vote for Biden and Hillary, but the guy that's running for Congress in my district is a Republican, so I'm going to vote for him. I'm not going to vote for Trump, but I'm going to vote for him. So I really do wonder, like this time, like heading into the election, if Biden is still perceived as the underdog, if the ticket splitting for Senate and House is going to cut in the opposite way. It's going to be, okay, well, it's going to favor Democrats down the ballot because Biden is might look a little weaker. But I think it's doable. I mean, I think Brown really emphasizes that he got the opponent he wanted, so that's going well for him. But it's those are really the two races that are going to decide the whole chamber, right? Because if you could really say that just if Republicans win one of those, they got at least a 50 seat majority. Well, wait,
Okay.
no. Like at least
No,
they get
no.
an outright 51 seat majority. I'm sorry, but still.
Yeah, because West Virginia is, I believe that West Virginia is a sure game already for the
Yeah.
Republicans.
Yeah. Which it's funny, you can tell with like Manchin, like yeah, no. Had West Virginia not been so overwhelmingly Republican that he can't get re-elected, I get the vibe that he would very much like to stick around, but that's why I've seen things float. Oh, well, he might run as an independent for Senate or governor, or but he says he wants to retire, so I just kind of take him at his word.
And the only independent, quote unquote, well, the only Democrat turned independent in the Senate, Senator Bob Menendez is the only one running, like,
Yeah,
of course,
yeah,
in New
it's
Jersey.
yeah, that's
So what did
been.
I wanna touch on that for a second. I know New
Oh,
Jersey is
can
a safe state now in.
can we do that as the last thing because it's 10 and 10. Not to cut this short, but
Alright,
because we need to head to Jollibee soon. That's very
alright,
important in my household, as
yeah,
I told you.
yeah,
So,
alright, alright. So
but
yeah,
anyway, no,
I guess we,
yeah, no, like we can have that as last thing if that's good.
alright, right. So yeah, I guess me and the others would just stick around for a bit to talk more.
Okay.
about this. So yeah,
Okay. All right. Well, what I'll say on New Jersey is, it's, you kind of might feel bad about this presidential election, but it's probably a good thing. Probably one of the unambiguously good things that's come out of this election is Andy Kim is probably going to be the next senator from New Jersey, and he's just a great guy. So I'm happy he's going to likely, and I really. No, I don't buy that Bob Menendez is going to be like a spoiler in that race because he's just so unpopular. He's not going to take that much of a vote. I know we had a poll yesterday saying that New Jersey was close at the presidential level. Just keep in mind that like in 2018, uh, they reelected Bob Menendez that year as basically just an FU to Trump. So Trump is really not popular there. He's not going to carry it. So that's why we still have it as safe Democratic. But yeah. All right, guys. I'm going to go to Jollibee soon. We will do this
I
again
thanks
sometime. I'm
Sir
sure. Good
Miles for
talking to
the
y'all.
Thank you so
time
much.
again.
All right. See y'all
All right,
later.
Thank you. Thank you. See you soon.
thank
See
you.
you next time.
See you next time. Uy, pasensya
Bye.
ako na late
Yeah, okay lang. At least you can may na ano ka naman, may narinig ka na rin naman sa
Mhm.
kanya
Yeah,
as a pollster.
it's really disheartening for me because the balance of power is just uh in
Uh-huh.
Congress, in the lower house, it's just hanging on some seats.
Mhm.
There
Yeah.
you have no maneuver that whatsoever. Kaya ako talaga, I believe that the electoral college should not be proportional. As in talagang winner takes all. Kasi imagine mo kung halimbawa, let's say, ang hirap na kung very swingy yung mga districts, every point counts. Baka feeling ko lagi matatalo ang Democrats kapag ano,
Well, if
ge-
pag
gets mo ba
nag-split
yun?
vote, yeah, pag nag-split vote, yes, I get it. If they always gonna split the vote between the top of the ticket and the bottom of the ticket, yeah, we get that.
So hard. Hindi, kasi ang akin
Which
lang,
is
yeah.
funny.
Ang akin lang, gusto ko kasi siyempre meron pa rin, hindi kasi ako sanay na, hindi kagaya sa Europe na kahit unpopular yung policy, nagkakasundo kasi laging may majority at may coalitions. Sa US wala nang gano'n, 'di ba? Talagang winner takes all talaga
It's
lagi ang
it's rare. It's rare na magkakaroon ng bipartisanship to the especially of course in the House. Pero sa Senate naman may mga napagkakasunduan naman yung mga ibang Republicans, Senate Democrats. They're not really Trumpy or Bernie type in the Senate. Sa House lang talagang yeah, you're right. Magulo sa House of Reps ng US. Unlike sa House of Reps ng ibang bansa, which
yeah.
is in the case ng parliament na pero isang country for me in the European Parliament na talagang magulo for me is sa Italy,
Ay, oo.
which
Kasi
is laging papalit.
medyo unrepresentative din kasi yung kanilang yung kanilang semi-unrepresentative yung kanilang option. Parang hindi lagi nagre-reflect yung number of seats sa number of voters. Minsan halimbawa mas na-overpower ang conservative, minsan gets mo ba 'yun? Gano'n
Yeah.
ang hirap kapag halimbawa let's say yung first past the post seats. It's always like
Ah.
that, pero gano'n talaga.
Alright, so yeah, I wanna shift gears din pala sa part na 'to ng conversation natin about UK.
Ay,
Malapit na next
kailan na ba yung
Thursday.
election ng UK? Hindi ko man din maano 'yun.
Next Thursday. Next
So,
Thursday.
next Thursday siya, baka magpuyatan ko 'yan. So, sure bang matatalo na ang Tories?
I believe no. I think they might be still at the government party, but it would depend on how much the
Labor.
Reform Party can grab
Votes.
away from the Tories. Kasi I think ang pinaka-problema ngayon ng Tories is the supposed reform party of Nigel Farage, which is not really that much that's not really a reform party for me in my view. In my view lang. So, ang tingin ko kasi dyan is Tories might get under their paano ba to? Parang under 200 seats, I think, and then makakakuha yung reform
Labor.
party ng no, makakakuha yung reform party ng seats na it would probably force the Tories to coalesce with them. And then Labor might, also grab some seats sa Tories, probably 10. Ano ko lang yan, speculation ko lang yan, obviously. I'm not really well versed sa UK electoral politics, even though halos tulad lang yan sa House of Reps sa US, iba lang may mga pinagkakaiba lang. So yun.
Yun.
That's how it is.
Ay nga
So
pala,
if I was
ikaw muna.
sige. Sige. No, you go ahead.
Hindi, mamaya na ako, ikaw muna kasi para may airtime ako.
Sige. Kasi yung kasi, if I was so shilling for the UK Labor, I would probably give them 400 plus seats if in next Thursday.
Pero we'll
Kasi
see.
talagang
We'll see.
mapabawasan yung price.
Ay nga pala,
Yeah.
na-publish ko na, di ba last time pinag-usapan natin, na-publish ko na yung mga newsletter ko and Medium, so success. So feeling ko, moving forward, hopefully makapag-publish ako regularly.
Buti nga eh. Maano mo. And I hope, will help to that. I-share ko rin sa sa FB timeline ko.
Okay, thank you.
Hindi Pero yun nga, okay na rin yun na may talaga ng case about ng sa abortion rights para dito sa
Abortion
Pilipinas.
rights, yeah. Pero hindi lang
It's
abortion
just
rights,
more like reproductive rights. I should not say abortion. I think if I was you, I would have picked the reproductive rights, which is more, I hope na maging palatable sa Filipino readers.
Yeah, pero that's just about it. Ang akin lang, hindi lang naman siya abortion rights right now. I'm saying the next topics will be euthanasia, decriminalization of adultery, euthanasia, next topic, tapos blasphemy laws. So yun yung aking target na policy. So hopefully mag-green traction siya. Anyway, first...
sige. You can go ahead.
First, publishing ko pa lang siya, so parang okay. Kaya tagalan dahil feeling ko, hindi ko alam baka may drawbacks or kaya ay may pushbacks, pero wala naman apparently.
Wala. Ako kasi in my experience ng pagsusulat type sa Medium, wala pa naman ako masyadong
bashers.
Basher. Lang din, parang okay lang na appreciate naman nila yung writing, pagta-type ko. Ang problema ko lang is, paano ba? Medyo whack yung mga pag-articulate ko ng mga, which is yun yung problema for me. Na kailangan kong to do better. But, tinatamad na kasi ako kasi since, yun nga, I'm doing podcasting, which is kind of better for me.
Yeah. Ako naman writing. Ewan ko kasi ang hirap mag-produce for me kapag podcasting at saka video editing. Masyadong matrabaho. So, and then saka nandun talaga yung strength ko sa writing. Ang hirap maging generous. Ikaw na yung writer, ikaw yung writer, ikaw yung producer, ikaw yung videographer, ikaw yung artist. In all in one, parang oh my God, nakakasabaw yun.
Ang dami nga, kaya nga talagang tumigil na muna ako sa writing sa Medium. The last thing that I typed was advising yung Senate Democrats to how to campaign better pagdating ng general election. Which is, I know they're not gonna read it. So yeah, ayun yung last na tinype ko. After that, hindi na ako nagsulat eh. Tinatamad na talaga ako. I swear. I swear to God, tinatamad na ako. Wait. So, ano? May iba pang gusto tayong pag-usapan pa ba?
I think,
Or ano? Parang
Sino yun?
wala na.
Ano bang gusto mong pag-usapan?
oh
Alright.
nga.
So, let's go naman na ulit muna sa ano dito sa Pilipinas. About, some idiots saying that we shouldn't be aggressive to China, all of that shit. Like I say na I think we should be aggressive pa rin naman in a way because sila naman kasi talaga yung nauuna sa panggagago sa territorial waters natin in the first place.
Hindi, tsaka
And, sige, go.
naisip ko, kapag halimbawa, let's say, naging friendly ka kay China, they'll take a mile instead of an inch. Sure yun. Tapos, hindi ka pa sure. Tapos kailangan din maging protective ka sa West Philippine Sea kasi yung marine life doon,
Oo.
kailangan i-preserve for future generations at saka for food supply ng Philippines. So,
It's a double-edged. It's a
naisip ko nga
double-edged issue.
So, yun.
Tapos, ito pa.
Yan.
Sige.
Dahil nga masaya yung kain ko habang pinakikinggan ko kayo. Yung kasing narratives about the West Philippine Sea na bakit daw tinawag nating WPS yun instead of the SES is actually one of the most ridiculous things I have ever heard in my entire life. You know why? Because number one, in a protestation case, remember 2014 nilaban yan. We needed to stand our ground because we are going to file the arbitral ruling sa Hague, di ba? Kasi pinagtatalunan nun yung mga mapa kung sino yung unang nagkaroon ng isang settlement sa region na yan, di ba? So, naging issue yung Baho de Masinloc and then yung mapa nila which came down from the Han Dynasty. So, hindi nila na-prove yung Han Dynasty, right? And what happened there was that the Department of Foreign Affairs consulted the President then, Aquino, na kailangan na natin siyang tawagin na nasa in our own way, in our own norm. Because mahina yung laban ng China when it comes to the possession of the Scarborough Shoal, no? At saka actually, hindi lang Scarborough Shoal, pati yung iba pang claimed islands nila na we are also claiming, no? So, hindi siya lugi because number one, we are fighting or we are making a protestation based on our interest. Hindi tayo inudyok na kahit sino man para ipaglaban yan. Kasi remember, if we are to become cajoled by the United States or if we are to submit to their advice, the advice of the United States would be drop it, actually. Yan ay hindi sinasabi ng mga alam nyo na, no? Dahil ito ay magpapatay sa kanilang argumento na what we're doing is actually western sponsored. Hindi eh. Kasi the United States are also quite concerned about this, lodging forces in that conflicted area, no? That's going to be their initial advice, but still, dahil nga meron naman tayong diplomatic ways of protesting the abuses, we had to all double down our newly found leverage. Kaya tinawag na siyang West Philippine Sea based sa atin, no, based on our knowledge, no, na
Pero
tayo ang mas may claim doon. Yes.
Pero may part din daw po kasi sir yung Taiwan on the yung pag-form ng China to claim na sa kanila tong southern waters na nasa double easy ng Pilipinas po kasi as much as I recall correctly. Parang they struck a deal with China that they would let the Chinese to, have territorial waters here sa atin sa south while in hopes that they would leave Taiwan alone. I mean, I don't know, but I can be mistaken po for that.
But
Uh,
the problem is, no, yes, they've done that. But the problem is Taiwan isn't even recognized as it's not even recognized as a fully pledged state. Remember, it has to represent its people through a different name, 'di ba? Sa Olympics,
yep,
sa international competitions, sa Chinese Taipei, which the current party leadership of Taiwan now has, they wanted to tanggalin na kasi parang lumalabas na
yep,
nagkaroon ng implication doon sa mainland,
yep.
'di ba?
Mm-mm.
Because they also claim the PRC. We have to remember
Mm-mm.
that the ROC also claims the entire PRC. It's
China.
just that
Yeah.
out of convention since 1979, the entire world, okay, officially recognizes the People's Republic of China as the real China, not the Republic of China of Taiwan. Okay? Now, dito
Mm.
lumabas yung proxy diplomacy ng Amerika sa Taiwan. They are sending proxy people there, okay, to understand the situation, no? Alamin nila ano ba nangyayari, is China still making overtures of threats, or are they already codifying certain compromises para mas lalong mamitigate yung tension between these two Chinas, no? Now, since mas maliit ang Taiwan and mas nag-concentrate na mag-diplomatic relations sa PRC, hindi na masyadong hindi na masyadong pinondohan ng proxy diplomacy. In fact, lahat ng bansa gumaya doon out of constructivist viewpoint na dahil nga mas malaki yung PRC, sila dapat yung mas itim. Okay, let's hope na no, that by taming China, they won't be able to reassert their claims
Dog.
to
Mm.
Taiwan, no? So yung ginawa ng Taiwan over yung southern territory nga na yan na sinasabi mo, hindi siya talaga magiging objective, hindi siya tatanggapin kasi nga hindi sila ang totoong China under international agreements since
No. Okay.
1979. Hindi sila ang China. Walang dalawang China actually, no?
Isa
It's
lang
only
dapat.
it's only until 2017 wherein 'di ba gumawa ng diplomatic disruption si Trump. Tinawagan niya si Tsai Ing-wen ng Taiwan,
Yep.
which of course triggered the Chinese government. Kaya sila alarm na alarm ngayon sa area na yan. Because they feel, on the Chinese perspective, they feel that Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, and now the Philippines would be the corridor of the West. Most specifically, the United States, no? And that's already the strategies that are waged for potential global warfare because um, surrounded kasi ang China, no? And this is not to say I'm an apologist of China, but they would react
No.
accordingly like that. And hindi
Yep.
rin nila ginagawa ang kanilang advantage. Why? Because they continue to assert their military prowess wherein they should have just taken the soft power road. Hindi nila ginawa eh. Biro mo, gumawa-gawa sila ng fake na 11, actually 9, nung una 9. Tapos ginawa nilang 10 dash line because of Taiwan. No? They
Yep.
created that fictional line, di ba? And ipipilit mo yun sa mga bansang ito, alam mo na mas kakampi sila sa kanlo na ring bansa dahil nga sa
Mm.
they don't like the encroachments, no? Kaya ngayon ang nangyayari, even countries that are supposedly moderate, like Vietnam, like Indonesia, no, are somewhat unilaterally codifying their policies in line with the Philippines' arbitral victory in 2016. No, something that the Philippines suddenly dropped for 6 years.
Nung time ni ano, of course,
Kasi
nung
hindi
time
pwede.
ni
Oh, yeah.
yep,
So yun nga
mahal
eh,
na tatay.
yun nga yung pinagkakatakahan ko, bakit sobrang tanggol na tanggol nila sa polisiyang ganon. Eh sila nga ang
Hmm.
nag-broker ng ng trajectory ng defensive policy against China, no? And ano, credits to the second Marcos admin na hindi nila tinuloy yun. Kasi unang-una sa lahat,
Yep.
magkakaroon ng yan, ng miscommunication, further miscommunication, no? Because
Hmm.
ginamit ng ASEAN or ng mga claimant ASEAN countries yung ating pagkapanalo to recalibrate their policies over the rest with the South China Sea, no? Tayo naman na nagpanalo noon umatras
Oo nga eh,
because
nakakapagtaka eh.
uh, suddenly you had the reorientation of policy. So, you cannot disrupt that kind of policy because maaring i-take advantage ka. Maaring
Yep.
bigyan ka ng heavy bargain
Which
at the end of
happened.
the day. No? At tulad ng BBB, for example. The BBB money that were supposedly finalized and agreed upon by the Chinese government and the Philippine stakeholders, wala pa halos dumadating. In fact,
Oh,
hindi ko nga sure kung yung mga BBB projects na yan ay matutuloy pa, no? Kung
Actually,
yung sa Mindanao nga, di natuloy eh.
alam ko hindi tutuloy. Yung
well,
actually ako talaga hindi ako sang-ayon sa BRICS. Di ba ito yung Belt Road
hmm,
Oh,
project?
Belt Road Initiative.
hmm,
Hindi ako sang-ayon diyan dahil isa siyang debt trap policy.
Oh yeah.
Kasi Pakistan, yung Serbia, I think Serbia ba?
African
Montenegro
countries.
African
African,
countries
yes.
nag-suffer, sinenrender nila yung kanilang territory para mabayaran ng utang nila sa China. So, sana hindi matuloy.
May mga hindi pero paano ba? Yung sa build naman kasi ang mga natuloy daw dun sabi ni ang idol kong politiko ano parang wala pang 2/3 ng mga yon ay
Wala pa.
natuloy or
Wala.
nakumpleto. Wala.
Oh, wala pa. Kasi nga, ganito mangyayari dyan, no? Ideally, this is what's gonna happen. If they are to continue certain BBB projects, magkakaroon na ng bagong, partnerships yan, no? Bakit? Kasi, kailangan may magawa na. Kailangan may